So I think AI just completely changed how people are going to run cold email and outbound campaigns in the future. If it's your first time here, my name is Ryan Bryden. I run an outbound agency called Breakout. We help B2B companies 2 to 5x their sales pipeline in 90 days. Now, I want to show you what I just kind of by accident stumbled into by fooling around with GPT-03. So this is a model from OpenAI that it's focused on like advanced reasoning. So what that means is that it'll like think through problems really, really well. And I was honestly just screwing around with it. And I think I like by accident came across something that I think everybody in outbound, everybody in sales will find extremely valuable. So what I came to it with is we have this client of ours that building lists for is really hard. So we're looking for companies in Canada that are hiring foreign workers, right? So a company, they're looking for whether it's remote stuff and they're just looking for, customer service or like sales things, or, whether they're looking for like on the job, like labor stuff, just Canadian companies that are hiring foreign workers. And then we're helping with the benefit process of this, right? So I go to ask this O3 model, I say, hey, I'm trying to build a list of this. How would you go about doing this? Right? I'm curious. And then I just kind of give it context on what we're doing. I need to find companies that are hiring for these foreign workers. Can you help? And so the cool thing I found about O3 is that if you click on this little arrow right here, it'll show you exactly what it's thinking and kind of how it's going about finding whatever you just prompted it with, right? So it's showing me, okay, so it sounds like the user is looking for this. They may need help with this. Here's where I'm going to go first. And it's actually going on the web and searching for all of this data. Right. And so it's going to government data sites and it's finding stuff here, and then it's finding a few names of companies, and then it's blah blah. And it's showing you step by step exactly what it's doing to, fulfill the prompt that you just asked it. And so after a while, it's running around doing a whole bunch of stuff. And so it then kind of gives me like, hey, here's how I would do this if I were you kind of idea. And then it gives me a few companies here. And so I've returned back to it and I said, hey, this is a good start. But then one thing that I found with GPT is that you need to tell it to give you the exact output you want. It's always going to try to say like, hey, here's how you can do it. You can have this like, no, like I want you to do it. You know what I mean? So I just told it that. And again, right, it's going okay. So it's going back to search, job boards and Canadian government sites and all this stuff that like if this was manually done, this would take hours and hours and hours, days on days, and it did this in 3 minutes and 24 seconds, right? Like that's pretty cool. And so again, it's running around doing a whole bunch of stuff here. And eventually, after checking a bunch of sites, it finds me 12 companies that are like an exact signal for a company that we know are hiring LMIA jobs in Canada, which is like the name for companies that are hiring foreign workers. Now, 12 companies is great. Obviously, if you're going to run some kind of campaign for this, you're going to need a lot more than that, right? So what I then said is I was like, okay, this is a great start, but based on this list, I want you to make strong inferences based on other Canadian companies that might be hiring for this. You don't have to be certain, but you should be able to make a strong inference that this company is hiring for these types of workers. And then I say the list of companies here needs to be at least 2,000. If we have 2,000 companies in a list, that's pretty much significant enough that we can find good people data from there to be able to run campaigns out of, right? And so again, it's going back and it's doing a whole bunch of coding stuff that I'll be honest, I don't really have a background in coding or software engineering, so I don't really know exactly what it's doing here in Python. But at the very end, we get a downloaded list of 2,000 companies that, and it says on the CSV file that I have pulled up of reasons that they are either currently hiring for these workers or have hired in the past. And so this entire thing took me like 10 minutes. And I was sitting here and I was like, what's the reason to, use big database or use Apollo or use whatever it is if O3 is going to be this good in building you lists? And I was thinking, I was like, wow, this is pretty ridiculous in my opinion. And this is kind of crazy. And I'm sure it's only going to get better. And so I've spent a lot of time today coming up with even more ideas of, how you can build lists literally directly just through prompting in GPT. And so I wanted to share this with you guys. I think in the future, this is going to be pretty crazy. And then so what we're going to be doing is taking this data to Clay, finding people in lists like these, and then eventually getting their contact info and running campaigns that way. But thought this was pretty cool. If you want this done for your company, I will have some links in the description for some stuff of ours. If you want to check that out, by all means, go for it. But hope this helps. Dig around and have some fun. Peace.